The blue parrotfish is found in shallow waters on coral reefs in tropical and subtropical areas of the western Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean Sea. They are, as their name suggests, blue in color, with a yellow spot on their head which fades as they get older. They grow to an average size of 30 to 75 centimeters, although some do grow to 1.2 meters. They have a large beak that is used for scraping algae and other small organisms from rocks. With their teeth, they can grind rocks that they ingest into sand. During the summer, the blue parrotfish gather into spawning groups, and after sexual interaction occurs, the females deposit their eggs, which then sink to the seabed. The eggs will then hatch about 25 hours later. The blue parrotfish is found in water ranging from 3 to 25 meters deep from Maryland in the USA to Bermuda, the Bahamas, and as far south as Brazil. They are abundant in the Caribbean, but do not appear anywhere in the Gulf of Mexico. Their young can be found sheltering in beds of turtle grass. Around 80% of the time, they are searching for food. Fish is a monster, weighing a reputed 650 pounds, and was caught in 2016 before being released back into the Fraser River in Canada's British Columbia. Pig nose is more than 10 feet long, 5 feet in girth, and it has been happily living in the depths of the Fraser River for an estimated 80 years. The strange shape of its nose could be from a fight or accident at some point in its life. White sturgeons are now an endangered species, but mostly because of overfishing. They generally grow to around 5 feet in length, although the biggest white sturgeon recorded, weighed in at almost 1,800 pounds, was 20 feet long and said to be 104 years old. So pig nose still has some growing to do to beat that record. When a fisherman discovered an unboard one-eyed Cyclops shark inside a pregnant dusky shark in the Gulf of California, many people were skeptical as to the authenticity of this creature. The malformed creature would probably have not survived once it had entered into the world after the remains were examined by shark researchers. It is considered to be an extremely rare event, with fewer than 50 cases of such an abnormality having previously been recorded. Other abnormalities recorded in sharks have been of two-headed embryos found inside pregnant female sharks when caught. It is believed the embryo began to split as twins, but may have failed to split completely due to lack of space inside the pregnant mother. A creature described as half fish and half bird surprised the fishermen that caught it in Guizhou province in southern China, where the fish appeared to have a bird's head. The fish was later described as being a common freshwater carp, yet despite this, the story went viral with speculation that a new half fish, half bird had been discovered with a beak-like mouth and fins on its sides, giving it the impression it possessed wings. Experts were quick to point out that the unusually shaped head was probably the result of a developmental problem in the early stages of the fish's life. It was probably caused by a swelling in the skeletal system, which resulted in the mouth tilting downwards. Salp, or salpa, is a barrel-shaped planktonic tunicate that moves by contracting and then pumping water through its gelatinous body. The system of jet propulsion used by a salp is one of the animal kingdom's most efficient. While pumping water through its body, the internal feeding filters allow it to feed on phytoplankton. Salp can be found in equatorial water, temperate, and even in cold seas. They can be seen on the surface, singly, although usually in long, stringy colonies. They are found in their greatest numbers in the Southern Ocean near to Antarctica. In the deep waters of the Southern Ocean, they are known to form enormous swarms and are more abundant than krill. A single salp is between 1 and 10 centimeters tall, and a single creature can asexually produce tens of thousands of individuals, which will be released from the parent at a small size. They remain attached to each other in the chain, feeding and growing until the food sources become too inadequate to sustain the chain. In 1920, the large number of salp entering into the North Sea led to the failure that year of the herring fishing industry. Although they appear to have similarities to jellyfish, they are actually related to vertebrates, animals with backbones. They are believed to be an example of how vertebrates evolved and also contain a primitive nervous system, which eventually evolved into the more complex nervous system seen on vertebrates today. The fish snake is also known as the snakehead and is a freshwater fish native to Africa and Asia. They are an elongated predator with long dorsal fins, large mouths, and shiny teeth. The fish snake is also able to breathe air through its gills, allowing them to cover short distances across land. The fish snake is a notorious intentionally released invasive species, becoming very successful due in part to having no natural predators in those regions it has been introduced into. Adult fish snakes will eat other fish, frogs, and occasionally small mammals such as rats. There are around 40 species of fish snake, with the smallest being the dwarf snakehead, growing to just 25 centimeters or 10 inches. Most species grow to between 30 and 90 centimeters, 12 to 35 inches. There are 5 species that reach in excess of 1 meter, 3 feet 3 inches. Cornet fish are also known as flute mouth. There are 4 species that can be found in the tropical and temperate waters of the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. They can be found on soft seafloors such as sand flats, seagrasses, and coral reefs. They possess an elongated snout that ends with a mouth containing minute teeth. At the other end of their body is the end of the backbone extending to a forked tail fin. The largest cornet fish can grow up to 2 meters in length. The blue-spotted cornet fish and the red cornet fish are found in the oceans of the Atlantic and Western Pacific, as well as the Mediterranean Sea. The reef cornet fish and deep-water cornet fish are primarily found in the eastern Pacific Ocean. The armored sea robin is also known as the armored gurnard and is found in deep waters of the world's tropical regions. They are related to the family of sea robins in the Triglydidae family. They are different from sea robins in that they are encased in heavy scales that feature prominent spines. They also have prominent barbels on their chins. They have large pectoral fins, which when they are swimming, open and close like a bird's wings in flight. They are able to glide short distances above the surface of the water, similar to that of a flying fish. They prefer to be in deeper water, often down to 200 meters below the surface. They measure about 30 to 40 centimeters long with a solid skull. When caught, they make a croaking noise similar to a frog. This unknown fish was found in a fish market in Japan. It has been researched on several sites but remains without a name. Do you know what type of fish this is? Let us know in the comment section below. The Lancetfish is a large predatory fish, also known as a scaleless lizard due to its appearance. They can grow up to 2 meters in length, although little is known about this fish except that it is found in all the world's oceans except for the polar regions. They have been recorded as far north as Greenland and are often caught by vessels fishing for tuna. There are 2 species of Lancetfish, the short-snouted and the long-snouted. Both species have relatively long and pointed snouts. The short-snouted Lancetfish has a slightly shorter snout than the other species. The main feature of the Lancetfish is its high and long dorsal fin. The dorsal fin contains 41 to 44 rays occupying the greater length of the fish's back. The fin is twice as high as the fish is deep. The mouth is wide with 2 or 3 fang-like teeth on each jaw with numerous smaller teeth. There are no scales present on this fish, and the fins are very fragile. The blobfish is actually a very unique specimen when it comes to the world we live in. For you see, the blobfish are a species that lives in incredibly deep waters within the oceans and are used to living in places with incredible pressure. So when they're not in those high pressure areas, they actually transform, in a way, into a more jelly-like state, which is why it looks like a blob when it is on the surface. Yep, that's right. The form you're seeing now is not its true form, but rather its final form. Just catching a blobfish is an incredible endeavor, as no blobfish has ever been caught alive, which is the same for most deep-sea fish. So even if you could catch one, you would have to keep it within a container that exerts the same pressures of the ocean, and then transfer it into a cage that has similar pressures. While its final form is strange, you have to admit that it's also strange that it would transform into this when put out of its proper pressure. And yeah, it just looks weird. Okay, I want you to picture a goldfish. It could be the one you have, one you've seen at a pet store, whatever you want. Can you picture it? Now, do you see anything weird about that goldfish in your mind? No? Good. That means you're thinking of a standard goldfish. However, a non-standard goldfish is the Oranda Goldfish, which most certainly does not look like a regular one thanks to its enhanced head. By that, I mean that the head has a growth, also known as a hood, called a wen, and it makes it look like the goldfish is rather sick, when actually, it's perfectly fine. Most times anyway. The mass on the head is benign, but sometimes it can grow so big that it actually covers the eyes of the fish, limiting eyesight in a not-so-fun way. Ironically enough, the growth on its head actually makes it attractive to people as pets. People are weird, this is known, especially among the Chinese. Still, if you're going to have a goldfish, I'd say go with the standard ones, that way there's no surprises there. There are many fish in the sea who use a variety of tactics to get their food, and the family known as the Stargazers are no exception. Their body is literally built for ambushing unsuspecting prey. For example, their eyes are on the top of their head instead of the sides like most fish. Their bodies are relatively flat, and their mouths are actually upward facing. What they like to do is go into a reef and bury themselves in the sand. Then, they'll wait for small fish to come by unsuspectingly, and then they'll strike. Not weird enough for you? Well, there are 51 species of stargazer in the world, and some of them actually have a lure within their mouths that looks like a worm. So they'll use it to attract prey and bring them closer, thus allowing them an even easier meal. And as if all of that wasn't enough, the stargazers are actually both venomous and electricity infused at times. Yeah, you heard me, they can both poison you and give you an electric shock, depending on the type of one you're looking at. Yet, what might be the oddest of all? Despite all of these odd and dangerous features, people love to eat them in certain countries. Part of the wrasse species, the Asian sheepshead wrasse, is odd in a whole host of ways. Not the least of which is that somehow this is one of the larger species of wrasse in the world today, as it can reach over 3 feet. The record among wrasse is 8.2 feet for the record. But obviously, when you look at the Asian sheepshead wrasse, you're looking at its head. I mean, how could you not? First and foremost, its head and mouth look like it's swollen, but they're actually not. It's just a protrusion that the fish naturally has. In the case of the mouth, it technically has a very unique jawline thanks to this protrusion. But getting back to the weirdness, the other thing that separates the Asian sheepshead wrasse from others is that the lips of this fish are very big. In fact, they actually look like human lips. Maybe ones with a Botox injection, who am I to judge? So yeah, when you add that all together, that's a weird fish. Whether as an animal or as a human, you know that a natural instinct is to protect one's young with all you have. And sometimes you need to get creative to do so. For the yellow-headed jawfish, that means putting the eggs in their mouth in order to not just keep an eye on them, but protect them from threats. No, really, that's what they do. Though to be clear, it's not the mother that has the eggs in her mouth. Rather, it's the father that takes up the mantle of child protector. What happens is that the mother will lay the eggs and fertilize them, as you would expect from the mother of the species. And once that process is taken care of, the father will come in and gather all the eggs in his mouth. Once complete, he'll start to incubate them, which can take over a week's time. And in case you are curious, the father will have anywhere from 300 to 500 eggs in his mouth during that time period, showing off not just the small size of the eggs, but the flexibility of the mouth of the yellow-headed jawfish. In terms of protection, yeah, I can see why this would be incredibly effective. In terms of looks, yeah, this is just plain weird. There are many creatures in the sea that have a cute or beautiful appearance, but are actually very deadly, and among these fish are the scorpionfish, a species that is known for its technicolor look, but also its incredibly deadly poison. One that can be found on the spines on its body that happen to be covered with a type of mucus. Yeah, you read that right. If this sounds familiar, you might know the name of one of the family members to this line, the lionfish, which is also known as one of the deadliest creatures of the sea. It's just a curious thing to see that there is a creature that can be quite pretty to look at, but if you get too close to it, it will sting you. Not unlike a scorpion, minus the pretty factor, of course. This species are also known to bury themselves at the bottom of certain seafloors and wait for foes to accidentally touch them, to which they can strike. Species known as the frogfish are actually a subsection of the angler fish line, but this one has a few unique qualities that help it stand out. First off, they're scaleless, which allows them to have all sorts of unique looks via their skin. They can even look frilly at times and thus resemble certain underwater plants. This comes in handy when they want to hide from predators or hunt food. Speaking of which, they're also not opposed to using mimicry via movements to try and convince its prey that it's actually one of them, and thus will get them into a lulled state of security, then strike. Which brings me to the most eye-popping moment of this feature. The frogfish is actually so quick that it can snatch up a prey in 6 milliseconds. That's so fast that most people can't see it happen. Why a fish needs to be this fast is beyond me. It kind of speaks for itself, doesn't it? I mean, it's called a boxfish. I'm sure you can guess, at least in part, why this fish is so strange, right? Well, in case you can't get the hint, the boxfish are a type of bony fish, and yes, they're actually shaped in part like a box. Mainly in how you look at them from the front view, they're box-like, or at times they can be even triangle-like. But wait, there's more! The boxfish isn't just oddly shaped, it's oddly built, to the extent that the scales that the boxfish have are armored heavily, so much so that they are actually only a few fish in the ocean that can try and eat a boxfish because of the scales being so hard. Yet, this comes with a drawback. Because of its rigidity and security, it can't exactly move very well, so its swim speed is low. But when you have that kind of protection, I guess movement speed isn't too big a worry, huh? What's that? Didn't we do the frogfish already? Yeah, but that was the pure species of them. This is one of their offshoots, and it's just as weird. If you don't believe me, just reread the name Psychedelic Frogfish. This species was actually discovered by accident in Indonesia by a scuba diving instructor. What he saw was a zebra-striped fish that was literally bouncing along the ocean floor, which if you know how water works, that's not easy to do. Then there's the look. Its stripe pattern is very unique, and in fact, every psychedelic frogfish has their own very special stripe pattern. That makes it easy for people to keep track of them and thus study them at length. Why they have this stripe pattern is unknown. What is known, though, is that the psychedelic frogfish is actually able to somehow extend its head and mouth forward, which totally isn't creepy at all. You no doubt have heard about the pufferfish at some point in your lives. And if so, you know that this is a fish that is not only strange in its looks and behaviors, but also in how it's appreciated all over the world. In case you don't know, the pufferfish has a toxin that is feared all over the world, tetrodotoxin, and the fish is literally infused with it from top to bottom, gill to gill. So the slightest touch of this fish on your skin will leave you dead. Period. Which brings us to its unique defense mechanism. When calm, the pufferfish looks like a regular fish, but when threatened or spooked, it'll inflate itself into its ball form, one that protrudes a bunch of spikes meant to ward off prey. The fear of the pufferfish is so grand that it's full-on illegal to bring these fish into most of the countries in the world. The reason for this is that while you eat the fish, you have to know how to do so without leaving any of the poison in it as you cook it. That's hard to do. Which is where the strangeness element comes in, as Japan is the only country in the world to allow the import of them because they know how to gut it properly. So I guess you could say that they're fearless in the face of the pufferfish. The ocean sunfishes, this unique fish truly stands tall amongst other fish in the sea. And I do mean that quite literally, because they can measure up to 15 feet in length despite having a half-fish look. What does that mean? Simple. When you think of a fish, you usually see a complete body even in the smallest of fish. But the ocean sunfishes have a look that ends at the dorsal fins, which makes it look very odd, yet it's very long. See the weirdness now? Oh, and did I mention that because of their size, they can weigh up to 5,000 pounds? Because they can. One more thing, there are like 40 species of parasites in its skin, because why not at this point? The sawfish has a name that definitely lives up to the hype, because as you might suspect, the sawfish is indeed a creature with an appendage that looks very much like a saw. Shocking, I know. Believe it or not, it's not actually the nose of the fish that has the saw. It's actually an extension of the nose called the rostrum, and on that rostrum is a set of spiny teeth that reach out and thus give the fish its saw look. Another odd thing is that while the saw on the fish looks like an offensive weapon, it's actually not clear if that's what it's for. No one really knows how the saw is used on prey, but we do know that it's used as a sensory tool to help the sawfish see all around it. Didn't see that coming, did you? Thanks for watching, everyone. What did you think about these strange fish? Which ones were your favorites among the set? Do you know of another strange fish we can put on the list next time? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time on the channel.